Good evening, everyone. My name is Dundrup, and I'm the SPC here at Tupten Norbuling. I apologize that I'm not able to be with you all this evening. I did want to take a moment to once again thank Venerable Kartsön for offering his teachings to our community. He is even once again getting up very early in the morning to offer these teachings, as he has done several times, showing his commitment to making these teachings available to our community. He's been a really important part of our online faculty for years now, and we all hope that he continues to be such an important integral part of that online faculty for many, many years to come. So you guys are in truly capable hands for this course. And so I hope you enjoy and benefit greatly from his wisdom. And Venerable, thank you so much for offering your teachings yet again. And we hope that we can invite you back again and again and again, and eventually have you here in person when possible. So good luck to everyone in your studies, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, should I start? All right.
Yes.
So, thank you very much, Dundrup. It is really nice, a wonderful opportunity to meet again online. So, my name is Yaki, or my ordination name is Kamatsundru, in short, Kartsön. And as Venerable Dundrup said, I have taught before for Tupten Nobuling, and I've always enjoyed that experience. So I see some familiar faces on my screen, and I also see some faces that are less familiar, and hopefully in the next few weeks we'll become very familiar with each other. So before we start, just wanted to tell you what I'm doing at the moment, or actually, let's start with first of all introducing myself. So as I said, my name is, and I grew up in Israel, and I started to get involved with the Dharma about 30 years ago. When I was 30, I decided to leave my job in Israel and travel to India again to receive some teachings and just hang out as a backpacker in India. But as things progressed, I met a girl and we fell in love and we stayed in India. And I met someone that later on became my teachers. So I thought, I have the time and I had the ability, so I took up Tibetan, and I ended up staying in India for 4 years. At the end of which I got an invitation to travel to Australia to become the resident interpreter for the Chinrezig Institute Buddhist Center. So I thought to myself, why not? Let's check it out. And my initial commitment was for 2 years, but I ended up staying for 18 years at Chinrezig Institute, during which I also became ordained. And I left Chinrezig Institute I think 3 years ago, with the intention to be more free, attend teachings whenever I can, and also to do more retreats. And so I've been attending teachings, but I have to say that on the retreat front, I'm lacking. I haven't done many retreats since I left Chinrezig Institute. I managed to do here and there, a few weeks here, weeks there, but it's coming, hopefully. And so I've been traveling around for the past 3 years between Australia and India, sometimes Israel, sometimes other places for translations, for teachings, for doing retreats. And now I am in China. So my teacher was born in Tibet, but for the past 20 years he's been living in Taiwan. And he hadn't seen his family since COVID. This year, finally managed to travel back to China and meet with his family in China. So we were at a border city between China and Tibet. The city is called Xining. It's a small city, relatively speaking. So his family came out from Tibet, and we've been here for the past month or so. And my time here is coming in, I guess, 10 days. So for today and next time, will be meeting from China. Then I'm going to Sri Lanka for a couple of weeks. So we're going to also meet from Sri Lanka, and then I'm going to end up in India, attending teachings from Tai Siddhi Rinpoche. So we'll be meeting from different parts of the world. Um, Hopefully, fingers crossed, the internet gods will be favoring our meetings. And that's about it. So let's start. This is the DB module dealing with emptiness, as far as I think, as far as I know. I have made some preparation. I hope that I made the right preparation for the right module. But since this is the first time we meet here that we're meeting here, studying DB together, discovering Buddhism together, it's difficult to know what level I should pitch our encounters and meetings. So we're going to roll with it, and at any given time, if you have some difficulties, first of all, with my pronunciation, with my accent, with my English, technical issues, but also definitely with the content, then please don't hold back. Just put your hand up, and I'll try to clarify as much as I can. And so, I've been thinking of, first of all, introducing the topic in a general sense, and as we progress, we're going to go more into the nuts and bolts of the topic emptiness. But also, I thought, since we want to also include some practical meditations and practices in our encounters, we shall do that as well. Normally, when I do sessions with either online sessions or in person, I like to start our sessions with correcting a motivation. And normally I do it with refuge and bodhicitta, definitely when I know that the audience listening or participating in the sessions itself is Buddhist. So since we are not totally familiar with each other, I don't know if all of you see yourself as Buddhist, and if you don't see yourself as Buddhist, that's completely okay. So I'm still going to correct the motivation with refuge and bodhicitta, but if you feel that you're not there yet, that's completely okay. There is no pressure. You can just think, as we recite the verse for refuge and bodhicitta, that you're finding tools for making your mind better so that you can be of benefit to yourself and of benefit to others, right? So there is no pressure. So we will start either on the stages or parts from the stages of the path. And then at the end of the meditation, we will correct the motivation with refuge and bodhicitta, and then we will get straight into the material. So let's start with that. But first thing first, is the internet connection from my side working okay? Can you hear me? Cool. All right. So if there's someone in the waiting room, okay, perfect. So let's start our brief meditation. So normally when I start my meditation sessions, I start with a few minutes of calm abiding meditation, shine or shamatha meditation, in which I'm trying, first of all, to center my attention, to center my mind, my consciousness. And focusing on the breath is a useful tool. I assume that all of you, at least most of you, are probably familiar with this form of meditation. First off, I make sure that my body is completely settled, that it is comfortable, that it is supporting a consciousness that can go deeper, but can also expand and extend. Then I turn my focus to look at the vehicle, and I normally count down of 21 breaths. And in each breath, I divide each breath either to exhaling and inhaling, or to four parts: breathing out, then changing into breathing in, then changing into breathing out. That's one breath. And I do it for 21 times. If you wonder why 21 times, well, this is what I got from one of my closest teachers, Tai Situ Rinpoche. Every session, by the way, I go to them with Rinpoche. So every session of teachings or meditation that we do, we start with a round of 21 breaths. So I got used to it. This is what I normally do. So we will do that, and then we will briefly meditate on some of the points from this test of the path, and then we will correct our motivation with refuge and bodhicitta. So let's first off find a posture that works well for us. If it's sitting on a chair, if it's sitting on a sofa, if it's sitting on the floor, whatever works for you, it's completely okay. And as for the meditation posture, we don't want to be too rigid, too tense, too intense. We want our body to feel completely comfortable and well. A body that feels comfortable supports a consciousness and mind that can relax and can become amenable to the process of mental transformation. So whatever posture works for you, that's completely okay. Some people meditate in a supine position. So whatever posture you choose is okay. I think that if you're sitting, one of the most important thing is to keep your back upright. But upright, not again, not very tense or rigid, but to be loosely straight. Let's start with that, and then take 2 or 3 deep breaths. Sure that there is no tension in our body. And we can briefly scan our body, either from our crown down to our toes, or from our toes up to the crown. And if you find any place in your body that is tensed, that is rigid, that is uncomfortable, then you can breathe out whatever sense of discomfort you might be feeling and just relax, starting with our toes and our feet. And our legs, our thighs. We're going to soften our abdomen. Make sure that your chest is open and that you're breathing naturally without changing or forcing your breath. And let your shoulders fall. And soften your palms. Relax your arms. And also the muscles in your face. There's a lot of tension that we sometimes hold in our jaws, the meeting point between the two joints, two jaws. So just relax. and soften your eyes. And relax your forehead. And with a body that feels slightly more comfortable and more relaxed, turn your attention to the breathing cycle. Count a round of 21 breaths. Each breath is an anchor for a consciousness that can hold still. So we're going to use mindfulness to remember the breath and vigilance every 2 or 3 breaths, checking that we're still remembering the breath. And if our mind becomes distracted, we're going to put it back. And again, place it on the breathing cycle for 21 breaths. And correcting our motivation with the steps of the path to enlightenment, reminding us of, first off, that all of us have a precious human rebirth, the summation of which is the wonderful opportunity that we have to enjoy the Dharma. All the faculties are intact. Externally, we still have amazing, wonderful spiritual teachers that guide us, teach us the Dharma of the Buddha. We have communities that support our studies, the community of Thupten Nobeling, friends, and internally, we have trust and faith that we can change our mind using the teachings of the Buddha. But our time is short, for death is coming. It might be in a few years from now, but it might be also closer. Just to know. And we want to die without having a great sense of regret. While it is difficult to die with a mind that is completely free of regrets, at least when we think of the way in which we want to die, We want to die in thinking that we die to be useful to ourselves and to others. And if our orientation is from a Buddhist perspective, then we also think of what will occur to us in the next lifetime. We want to avoid miserable states of existence, miserable rebirths. But that's not enough. We also want to meet again with the Dharma, with spiritual teachers, with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, hopefully with Kyabje Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Geshe Sherab, to be guided again and again in a long process of training our mind with ethics, concentration, and wisdom, and to make our way bit by bit, stage after stage, in stages, towards our own state of liberation. Liberation from ignorance, from anger, from attachment, from pride, from jealousy. All those miserable states of mind that are limited and limiting. But remember that it's not only ourselves that have fallen, that are sinking in the deep ocean of samsaric suffering, but also everyone around us, particularly at this point in time where the world is going crazy with wars and conflicts, corruption. We want to also make sure that all those that we work with, communicate with, that we are related to, they too enjoy favorable conditions just like us. So that all of us would be able to attain the state of liberation and the state of enlightenment. And for that end, all of us need to develop wisdom, particularly wisdom that understands reality, how things are. For wisdom is the antidote to ignorance that is at the very root of our cycling in samsara. And so, in order to develop wisdom, we think that we're going to rely upon the Buddha, the teacher. We're going to rely upon the Dhamma, which is the actual refuge. And we're also going to rely upon the Sangha, those that have reached an understanding of reality and that can guide us, can lead us, can show us how to do it, so that we can maximize the potential of our own mind, so that we would be able to become Buddhas ourselves, so that we would be able to embody the Dhamma in our own mind, so that we ourselves will become Sangha, those that can lead others along the stages to enlightenment. So with a mind that trusts that the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha are for us objects of refuge, if we see ourselves Buddhists, not only for ourselves, but also for the sake of others, or with a mind thinking that we're going to do it, we're going to set a motivation in a way that we will open a mind to the development of wisdom that understands reality better, so that we'll be able to be of greater benefit for others, and listen and think and practice with an open mind. I think I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dhamma, I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dhamma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dhamma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Right. And so, let's look at what I thought of doing in the next few weeks. First off, I want to introduce the topic, the importance of the wisdom of emptiness. Then to look at how do we approach our study and practice of wisdom, the wisdom of emptiness. So these are two preliminary topics, and then we're going to get stuck into the actual part. We're going to eliminate conceptions about emptiness, hopefully. If we have some misconceptions about the topic, then we're going to discuss them. We're going to have a brief look into what emptiness is. Then the important topic of identifying the object of negation, look at procedures for developing certain knowledge, the knowledge of emptiness. And the most common one is the fourfold reasonings. So we're going to speak about that. We're going to definitely look at dependent arising. Dependent arising and emptiness go hand in hand. We will also talk about avoiding the two extremes, and we're also going to include some meditations on emptiness as we go, but also we're going to look at way of approaching a meditation on emptiness and looking at the key points, the things that we need to include in the meditation of emptiness and the things that we hopefully need to avoid in a meditation of emptiness. So these are the topics that we're going to speak about, that we're going to talk about a few weeks. Let's start with the introduction, which is, first of all, I wanted to highlight the two first points, understanding how samsara works in general, and also particularly the 12 links of dependent arising. But before we do that, let's just maybe recap where we are in the sense of, within the teachings. And so often when a general description of the way that the Buddha gave his teaching is given, it is said that the Buddha attained the state of enlightenment at Bodh Gaya. And then he did not teach for 47 days, 49 days. 49 days. Then he made his from Bodh Gaya to Varanasi, or to Sarnath, in nowadays India. And in Sarnath, he, for the first time, turned the wheel of Dhamma. And this term, turning the wheel of Dhamma, is explained in some scripture in the following way. He said that just as a chariot or a carriage moves on wheels from one place to the next, also the teachings of the Buddha move from his mind to our mind in a similar fashion. So this is why we call it the turning of the wheel of Dhamma. And so first off, the Buddha gave teachings on the Four Truths. So everything that the Buddha taught begins with the Four Truths and is also included within the Four Truths. There are no teachings of the Buddha that fall outside of the big framework of the Four Truths. So the Buddha, first of all, spoke of true suffering, true origins, true cessations, and true paths. And everything that was the age of 35, all the way down to when he was 80 or 81, we passed away, everything is included within the Four Truths. And so the Buddha, first of all, said that all of us are undergoing states of suffering. So suffering of suffering, that's the first one. All of us are familiar with that, physical pain or discomfort or being unwell, but also mental pain, mental discomfort, being mentally unwell, being mentally weak, not in the sense that we're not brave enough, but kind of feel a sense of malaise maybe, or something is not quite right for us. Then the Buddha spoke of the second type of suffering, suffering of change. And he said that whatever pleasant feeling we experience, feeling of happiness, of comfort, things are going well for us. For us, it's just temporary. Either it can be on a physical level, it can be on a mental level. All those different things are short, and they end up with a sense of either not being good enough anymore, sense of dissatisfaction, or in the worst case scenario, they end up in pain. And normally when I look at it, kind of I think of days in which I overeat, particularly when I either hang out with friends that I haven't seen for a long time, or when I, visit my family and there's a lot of food to be had, delicious food, I eat and eat and eat. And at the early stages, it's quite nice, it's quite comfortable, it's quite delicious, but I don't know when to stop. And then when I overeat, it becomes uncomfortable. Then I go to sleep and I kind of turn from one side to the next and I sweat and I have bad sleep and I wake up in the following day and kind of my mind is foggy and I feel still heavy. And also those sensations of pleasure turn into something that is not pleasurable anymore. So this is a really simplified explanation or example of suffering of is that when we look at the pleasure and happiness that we seek in this life, we're mostly seeking suffering of change. Not only that, we're mostly seeking suffering of change. We don't think about it as suffering of change. We don't think about most of the things that we enjoy as being short-term. We don't think about them as ending up one day and giving us a sense of dissatisfaction, displeasure, or just they're not going to be good anymore. We do deeply believe that there is everlasting happiness that is waiting for us outside or inside within the samsaric cycle. And so the Buddha pointed out that it is not everlasting happiness within samsara. Whatever pleasure, comfort, happiness that we experience, it will always be short term. So that's a second type of suffering. And also, of course, we get attached to that second type of suffering. We get attached to it. We become disappointed or distressed when that happiness goes away. We become angry when whatever we attach to is being taken away from us, or people prevent the things that we want to attain. All of these are outcomes of being attached to suffering of change. And then the Buddha also spoke of the third type of suffering, which is the most important one. He called it pervasive suffering of conditionality, which is a big term. Pervasive means that it exists for everyone within the samsaric cycle. Everyone that is by ignorance, by anger, by attachment, everyone has pervasive suffering of conditionality. And it is suffering of conditionality because it conditions us to pain and in future lives. So if you wonder what is it? Well, in a very succinct way, we can say that, for example, this body that I have is an example of pervasive suffering of conditionality, because once I was born into a body such as this, it is certain that I will experience the pain of aging, of sickness, of death, and also meeting up with things that cause me displeasure and having to be separated from what causes me pleasure. There will always be something I will try to attain and I will not be able to do so, like chasing rainbows. um, whatever, and that conditions me also to states of mind that are not favorable, to afflictive states of mind that will motivate actions that will cause me suffering in this life, but also that will end my suffering in future lifetimes. So this body is an example of pervasive suffering of conditionality, but also I can say that my mind is also an example of something like that, in a sense that so long as it is controlled by afflictive emotions, by afflictive states of mind, for that long, I will still feel unhappy from time to time or very often. And I will also create habits, mental habits that will perpetuate in this and future lifetimes. And I will continue to behave in a way that will tie me into the cycle of existence, into samsara. So basically, this body and mind are not good enough. They're not good enough, but also they're very good for practicing the Dharma, for studying the Dharma. So from one perspective, from one angle, I don't want to get attached to this body and mind. I want to use them from a different perspective in order to progress along the stages that will lead to my own state of liberation and furthermore to my own state of enlightenment. So the Buddha first of all spoke of true suffering, and then the Buddha spoke of true origins. And basically, I guess that most of you, all of you are familiar with this point. So the Buddha spoke of karma and afflictive states of mind. Karma means actions and afflictive states of mind. The three poisons are the foundation of all afflictive states of mind. All the myriad afflictions that arise on the basis of, first of all, ignorance, but also in attachment. And so when I look at the way that the samsaric process works in a general sense, ignorance is the very foundation of all our afflictive states of mind. But there are different types of ignorance. There's ignorance of just unknowingness. I don't know many things. I don't know how to speak Russian. I don't know how to cook Korean food. I love Korean food. I don't know how to cook Korean food. But also, I don't understand quantum physics, and I don't know much about science, chemistry, physics, biology, and so forth. So I have a lot of areas of unknowingness, and I think that probably there are more things that I do not know than things that I do know and understand about this world. But that's not the very ignorance that causes cycle again and again in samsara. There are other levels of ignorance that are way more profound and deep than just unknowingness. And those levels of ignorance are twisting reality. While reality exists in one way, our ignorance sees them as existing in a different way. And so there are different levels of distortions, like, for example, distorting the reality of impermanence. Well, all of us are impermanent in the sense that we're changing from moment to moment on a very subtle level. And we are subject to death, birth, and death on a very coarse level. And all of us understand that, of course, if we speak about it, if we discuss that, all of us here will admit that since we were born, we will definitely die. Since we were born, we are aging, we experience sickness, and we will die at the end. And that depends on that constant process of transformation from moment to moment. Still, when we look at our approach to our daily life, we assume that there is some stability and permanence, and maybe some form of eternalism that works for us. Although we admit that one day we will die, we think that, yeah, it's going to happen many years from now. And even though, of course, when we speak about it, we might say that, it's definitely going to happen within the next 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, blah, 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 blah. We're going to admit that, but still our approach to our daily life is such that we assume that there's an ocean of time ahead of us. And if there is a ocean of time ahead of us, then we need a lot of stuff, a lot of things to make us happy, to make us comfortable. We need a lot of provisions. We need a lot of money. We need a lot of possessions. We need people around us. We need. We have a sense of attachment that arises from that thought that there is some form of stability in instance for us. So that's one level of distortion of reality. Of course, it might happen. It might happen that we will live 10 more years, 20 more years, 30 more years. I'm now in my mid 50s. And I think that when I think of my Dharma friends, I guess that most of us are past the point of half of a lifetime is already gone. But I think of myself also as kind of, in some sense, as being young in that I have a lot of time ahead of me. But I might die next year or next month or next week or tomorrow, even today. So who knows? So that's one level of distortion of reality, but also we distort reality in thinking that what is in the nature of suffering is for us pleasurable. And particularly with respect to this body, for example, this body is in the nature of suffering. It's not, you can say, suffering at each and every moment, in a sense that it's not an each and every moment I feel bad, I feel iffy, I feel uncomfortable. It happens every so often, from time to time. But the mechanism for giving rise to experiences of discomfort and suffering are built in within this body. You cannot make it perfect. It will definitely fail me at some point in time, today, tomorrow. Many times a day it will fail me in giving me of discomfort and suffering. And so, although the nature of the body is suffering in that it has a built-in mechanism for generating suffering, I don't think about it often like that. I think about it in an opposite way. I think that there is a way of making my body perfect. Now, I long to be young again. I long to be slim. I long to be beautiful. I long to kind of for people to approve of my body, of my, who I am. I am seek comfortable sensations, happy sensations, either in my body or in my mind. We still that underlying assumption that it can be made perfect. So, and also when often when we get sick or when something drastic is happening, we think, why does it happen to me? Shocking. No, it is completely out of the blue. Actually, it is quite a miracle that we survive, that we stayed alive up until now. For there are so many conditions that can that can cause death, and so few conditions to keep us alive. So it's a miracle that we made it thus far. And so thinking that this body of pervasive suffering of conditionality is something that actually that is quite good and quite perfect is another way of twisting reality. And particularly, I think that it happens to us when we're in in early stages of our life. We fall in love. We fall in love with another person. We think they're perfect. And of course, for certain times it can be perfect for us, but we don't think them and we don't think about us as having this body that is pervasive suffering of conditionality. And not only that, we also twist reality in thinking that what is unclean is clean. So, for example, in relation to the body, there's so many levels of uncleanliness in relation to the body, but we're still trying to make it clean and beautiful. We pamper it, we clean it, and so forth. And to clean it, it's okay. To take a shower, to keep hygiene is good, but we still, I think, have that underlying ignorance, which assumes that there's something clean and pure about the body, whereas actually, when you think of what's lying underneath the skin, the internal organs, what is going into our body, what is going out of our body, the origin of the so forth. We can think about it from different perspectives to come to terms with the idea that it's not only pretty and beautiful and clean. Actually, there are many elements that, in a sense, that we wouldn't like to think about it. And one of the teachers that I used to work with, actually, that was the first teacher, the first teacher that I worked with at Jim Resnick Institute, used to put it in a very confrontational way. So I used to be a little bit embarrassed when I was translating for it, but I'm going to say it anyway. He said that, like, for example, think about the materials that a body is made of, how it, the origin. It comes from the sperm and ovum of a mother and father. So we think that this body is something that is pleasant, that is beautiful, that is pretty, and so forth. But when we think of the substances that it was made of, if you think of touching them, imagine, he said that, imagine that you hold in the palm of your hand sperm and ovum of your mother, father. I don't know, it's weird. But so I think that we would flinch if we would have to cradle it in a hand, but we still think that there's something beautiful and pleasant within the body, although the substances are pretty, I don't know, weird. And so that's another level of ignorance, right? Taking what is unclean to be clean. But all those different types of ignorance that I spoke of up until now are not the very foundation, are not at the very root of cyclic existence. They stem from the underlying ignorance that wholeheartedly believes that things exist in and of themselves in an independent way. This type of ignorance is called beginningless ignorance that goes with us time without beginning and up until now. And so we're so used to this form of ignorance, and we have placed so many imprints for this form of ignorance that not only our ignorance wholeheartedly believes that this is indeed the case, that things exist independently in and of themselves, but also everything we see around us with our sense consciousnesses, our ears and our eyes and our nose and our tongue and our physical consciousnesses, but also in a mental consciousness, with a mental consciousness, everything appears to us as if it exists completely in and of themselves. So the appearances that dawn to our mind are appearances of true existence. Things exist truly, objectively, in and of themselves. So things appear to us in this way, and we wholeheartedly buy into the appearance that the Buddha spoke of. And on the basis of that ignorance, we have incorrect mental attention. And incorrect mental attention distorts qualities of the objects that we engage with. It superimposes, it exaggerates either positive qualities or negative qualities. So when we think about it, like, for example, we come across someone that we dislike, someone that either has harmed us before, or that is doing it at the present, or that we suspect that are out there to get us. And so, first of all, ignorance sees them as existing objectively, externally, in and of themselves as a harm, someone that is, their whole existence is there to make us feel uncomfortable, to harm us. No, so we see them as, first of all, existing in and of themselves, and then incorrect mental attention kicks in and exaggerates the negative qualities. Well, there might be a combination. They might have a combination of positive qualities and negative qualities. Our incorrect mental attention exaggerates negative qualities, and we become completely blinded to the possibility of they having positive qualities. And also the other thing, the other extreme happens. We come across someone, we see them with our ignorance as existing in and of themselves, and there is something attractive, appealing in them. And then incorrect mental attention exaggerates their positive qualities, and we don't see any faults in them. I mean, this is definitely what happens to us when we fall in love, particularly at a younger stage of our life. Who hasn't had that happening before? We meet a person, they appeal to us. We fall in love with them from head over heel. Then we think that they have only positive qualities that exist in them to make us happy, and we don't see any negative qualities in them. And then on that basis, attachment or aversion arise. So when we look at the next step, we have ignorance, then incorrect mental attention that exaggerates positive or negative qualities, and then anger, attachment, and other afflictions arise. If we exaggerate positive qualities, 100% positive qualities, then attachment will arise in our mind. If we exaggerate negative qualities, we see them as 100% negative qualities, anger, animosity, hostility will arise in our mind, and other afflictions as well. It's easy to see that happening in our life, kind of when I think of, for example, my brother. I can speak about my brother. He's very likely to not attend our sessions or listen to our session. My brother has zero interest in Buddhism. So, brother, I think I call him a serial groom. He got married twice, uh, he got divorced twice, and sometimes when I think his way of going with relationship, kind of he meets the most amazing person in the world, and he divorced the monster. That's according to him, So definitely, these are examples of these mental exaggerations that happen in our mind, kind of we exaggerate positive qualities to the point in which there's no way that we can live without that person, not only that person, with the things that we desire. Um, I like coffee. Sometimes maybe I'm obsessed with coffee, but a couple of years ago, I attended some teachings in Nepal from Mingyur Rinpoche, and just in a break, a friend of mine, another monk from South Africa, pulled this portable espresso machine out in, I think it's an American brand, um, extracted a shot of espresso during the break. And I thought myself, if I have this espresso machine, my life would be made perfect. And so for the rest of the day, during the teaching sessions and also during the meditation sessions, my mind was totally busy with how am I going to get this wonderful espresso machine? Whether it can be couriered to Nepal or to India, and where will I get the coffee beans, and how will I maintain it, blah, 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 blah. So a sense of attachment arises from this thinking that that thing out there is going to make my life perfect. And so we have anger, attachment, and other afflictions arising from incorrect mental attention. But we can also in a, motivated by afflictions, in a sense that, like, for example, when we think of when we wholeheartedly believe that things exist in and of themselves, independently, and we behave in a positive way on that basis. So we are benefiting people. We think that we're benefiting someone that exists in and of themselves in an independent way. We want them to be happy in an independent way. We want them to be free from suffering independently. So we're creating positive actions, but are still motivated by ignorance. Not only benign ignorance, but ignorance. So we definitely behave in negative ways in this, so killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, divisive speech, harsh speech, idle chatter, covetousness, ill will, wrong views, and so on and so forth. And we also behave in a positive way, and that brings suffering, either suffering of suffering, which means pain, physical pain, mental pain. It brings suffering of change, which means a sense of pleasure that it will always be short term. It will condition us to disappointment and attachment. It will perpetuate future afflictions, karma, and suffering. And it will also cause us to be born again in cyclic existence with a body such as this that will be susceptible to birth, sickness, aging, and death, meeting up with things that we dislike, separating from what we like, and so on and so forth. How are we doing so far? Any questions? Any objections? Objection, Your Honor. All right. So that's a general description of the samsaric process. But existence, you have a subset of truth that is described as the 12 links of dependent arisings. So the 12 links of dependent arising are made of 12 links, of course, 12 points. Some of them are classified as suffering. Some of them are classified as origins. And when you look at the breakdown of these 12, you get an explanation, a very in-depth explanation of how we again and again, since time without beginning, at the present, and also in the future, controlled by ignorance, we will be linking again and again into the cycle of existence, into samsara. So it begins with beginningless ignorance. And this beginningless ignorance is the one that I've just mentioned, the one that wholeheartedly believes that things exist in and of themselves independently. And on that basis of ignorance, we perform actions and they leave traces on our consciousness, the third link. They leave traces in the sense that they leave imprints. There's some links in between them, inform the six sources and so forth. But what happens, let's skip them. Let's look at links 8, 9, and 10. Genes that we have placed before in unconsciousness. At the very end of our life, when we're closer to the time of death, we have a sense of craving that arises in our mind. And that sense of craving or attachment intensifies and it becomes grasping. And craving and grasping activate an imprint that we have placed upon our mind stream. It can be a positive imprint, it can be a negative imprint. And that imprint, when it is activated, it is called existence, the 10th link, which is then linking us up to our next birth in samsara. So link 11, birth, once we are born. Link 12 says that we will definitely age and die. So I just briefly mentioned the 12 links of dependent arising in order to highlight the very foundation of the 12 links, which is beginningless ignorance. Now, I'm wondering, can you hear in the background some firecrackers that are blowing out? All right, this is pretty funny. So today is the last day of the Chinese New Year, started 2 weeks ago. So here particularly in China in general, so maybe in general, Chinese culture in general, firecrackers or fireworks are part and parcel of New Year's celebration. But particularly in this area in China, it seems to be a bit lawless. And so people have been firing firecrackers, but not only that, like full-blown fireworks within apartment buildings. No work and safety regulations, nothing in such. And so during the particularly New Year's celebration, the actual day and night, there were hundreds of people that gather down here in this complex of buildings. So I'm 18th floor of an apartment building. It has a few more floors up, and maybe 15 buildings around us in this complex. So there were hundreds of people downstairs, and they were blowing full-blown fireworks on the apartment buildings. It was crazy. So it's still going on all day and night. Today is the last day. So if you have post-traumatic syndrome of what have you, this is not the place for you to be, I think. Anyway, and so ignorance is at the very foundation of either understanding how samsara works in general, or more specifically, the 12 links of dependent arising. So in the introduction, I touched upon the first 2 points, understanding how samsara works in general, and the 12 links of dependent arising more specifically. And that being the case, since ignorance is at the very foundation of samsara, the opposite of ignorance is wisdom. And as I said, there are different levels of wisdom. Wisdom of unknowingness, that's the most coarse one. Then of ignorance that distorts conventional reality, reality of impermanence, is believing that what is impermanent is permanent. I did not mention, actually, maybe I should say, we are aging. Everyone, every time, not every time, every so often, when I look at myself in the mirror, I'm shocked or horrified by how I've aged. I still kind of know in my mind, I still think that that look like I was in my 20s. Particularly when I come across photos of myself from my 20s or 30s, I look like a completely different person now. Right? So those levels of ignorance that distort conventional reality, and then ignorance that distorts ultimate reality. And so in order to undo this cycle of existence, we have to deal with this underlying foundation of ignorance. Ignorance that believes that things exist in and of themselves. So often when you come across Buddhist teachings, first off, the benefits of the topics are being explained. And the idea is that if you're going to, first of all, understand what benefits you will get from engaging with this material, this topic, you will become enthused about it. You will develop joyous effort that will see you through the initial stage, the intermediate stage, and you will bring it to completion. And so let's look then at the benefits of generating wisdom, which is opposite to ignorance. After all, this is what we're here to do. We're here to develop wisdom. And so the benefits of comprehending emptiness, the wisdom of emptiness. So first off, developing better understanding of reality and reducing misconceptions about the nature of existence. And so I think that in general sense, all of us would agree with that rather than remaining confused about it, reality, distorting reality, if we'd be able to understand reality better, not only understand it intellectually, but we'll let our intellectual understanding also inform our day-to-day activities. We'd be able to work better with ourselves, and also we'd be able to work better with others. We'd be able to better accomplish what we seek out to do in this life. We'd be able to better avoid mishaps, and also that past and future lifetimes exist. If you think that, yeah, likely I am going to go into a next lifetime, proceed into a next lifetime after my death, then understanding reality better would be useful in terms of making sure that we avoid actions that would be detrimental for us in this and future lifetimes, and behave in a way that will help us. So that's the first level, the first benefit. Second benefit is we're going to reduce the power of the afflictions through undermining ignorance, the basis of the afflictions. And as I said, since ignorance that twists, that distorts reality is at the very foundation of the samsaric process in all afflictive states of mind, arise, this stem from this underlying ignorance, if we're going to reduce the power of our ignorance, other afflictions will abate. They will lose their power. So even while we're in samsara, where we haven't eliminated, we will not have eliminated ignorance once and for all, we can still weaken the power of ignorance. Like, for example, my mind is still controlled ignorance at the moment, but if ever so often I remind myself that things do not exist in a way that they appear, well, they appear to me as if they exist in and of themselves by their own power, independently. If I remind myself, particularly beginning with just saying, if I don't understand exactly what they mean, if I just start by saying things do not exist in the way that they appear, when I get angry, when I get attached, when I get jealous, get proud, if I keep on reminding myself that things do not exist in the way that they appear, bit by bit, slowly, slowly, afflictions will start to lose their power. Of course, it's not enough just to say the words. We want to continue with studying, with reflecting, with meditating, so that over time, our afflictions will lose power. That's going to be wonderful. And definitely, if we think of achievable goals in this life, that's definitely something that is viable. Then the third point is attaining liberation through developing the actual antidote to ignorance. And we're going to include also the fourth point is attaining enlightenment through developing the actual antidote to cognitive obscurations. And so these two last benefits, attaining liberation and enlightenment, first of all, I wanted to ask you whether you're clear in your mind the distinction between liberation versus enlightenment, afflictive obscurations and cognitive obscurations. So would you like me to say a few words about them? Say a few words about them? Okay. And uh, so when we look at the things that limit our mind, there are two sets of obscurations or obstructions. The first set is called afflictive obscurations. And what afflictive obscurations are made of are, first off, afflictive states of mind. So we have anger, attachment, ignorance, pride, jealousy. It is said that the Buddha taught 84,000 discourses. And each of the teachings the Buddha gave is an antidote to an affliction that we have in our mind. So we have 84,000 afflictions. Like a blank general statement that I've heard so many times from my Tibetan teachers. Sometimes there is no, if anyone sat down and came up with an exhaustive list of 84,000 afflictions. I'm not sure, but let's assume that they are. Anyway, it's a nice number. So, what am I saying? Yeah, so we have 84,000 afflictions, but also those afflictions have potentials in the sense that they have seeds. For example, now when I'm talking to you, I don't hate you. I'm not angry with you. I don't have any animosity in my heart, but a seed is there. You know, if something drastic happens, it could be possible that hatred, animosity, anger, a sense of dislike, hostility will arise in mind. So all our afflictions arise from those seeds, from potentials that give rise to a latter moment, to a future moment of an afflictive state of mind. So when we speak about eliminating our afflictions, we don't just want to deal with those manifest afflictions, the ones that are actually moment in our mind. We want to particularly eliminate the potentials. If we are just going to press down on our afflictions and not deal with, not touch the levels of seeds, the potentials of the afflictions, there's still a chance that in the future they will arise. So afflictive states of mind and their seeds, the potentials, are classified as afflictive obscurations. if we want to leave samsara, if we want to become completely free from samsara, be liberated, this is what we need to do. We need to study emptiness. We need to discuss, contemplate the topic of emptiness. And then we need to meditate on emptiness so that we'd be able to not only suppress afflictions, but eliminate the seed of ignorance, the seeds of anger, attachment, and so forth, the potentials that give rise to future moments of afflictive states of mind. If and when be able to do that, bang, will be liberated from samsara. So let's look again at this. Attaining liberation through developing the actual antidote to ignorance. The actual antidote to ignorance is the wisdom that directly realizes emptiness. It acts as the actual antidote to ignorance because it eliminates the seeds of ignorance, of anger, attachment, and all other afflictions that arise from ignorance. We can also include karma within afflictive obscurations, in a sense that karma, the actions that we perform, they arise from ignorance, from afflictions. So these are the things that bind us into samsara. The wisdom of emptiness will eliminate ignorance, the seeds of ignorance, and thereby we will attain the state of liberation. And so attaining the state of liberation is not going somewhere else. It is currently governed by ignorance. It is governed by afflictive states of mind. And therefore we have no control, no mental control. We get angry, although we don't want to get angry. We become attached, we become proud, we become jealous, although we don't want to be afflicted. So attaining the state of liberation can attain here and now if we eliminate ignorance in our mind. We attain control over them. We will not have unwanted, out of proportion or out of control states of mind. So the an antidote to ignorance, which is the wisdom of emptiness. But then the second set of obscurations is called cognitive obscurations. So sometimes it is called, cognitive obscurations are called sometimes obscurations to knowledge or obscurations to enlightenment. So these obscurations have to do with the imprints of ignorance. So ignorance has seeds that give rise to future moments of ignorance, but also had imprints. It leaves imprints behind. And those imprints are responsible for these mistaken dualistic appearances that dawn to our minds. So as I said, we have everything that we see around us, with our senses, with our sense consciousnesses, but also with a mental consciousness, appears to us as if it exists in and of itself. Everything appears to us as if they exist independently. So those mistaken appearances are attributed to the imprints of ignorance. We've grown so habituated with ignorance. We completely wholeheartedly trust that things exist in a way that ignorance portrays. And so those imprints that we have in our mind are responsible for those mistaken dualistic appearances. But not only that, also the key point is that so long as we have those imprints of ignorance in our mind, we'll be limited in terms of the knowledge that we have. This is the actual limitation. The limitation to cognition, to knowledge, and therefore it is called cognitive obscurations. Now, Buddhas are said to be omniscient, which means that Buddhas know all phenomena, everything, directly, which means without thoughts, but have access, direct access to everything. Just like my eye sees you, or maybe sees the screen directly without thinking this is the screen. My eye does not think this is Sheila, this is Teresa, this is Ree. My eye doesn't think, it just sees. directly. So a Buddha's mind also sees directly without thinking. It sounds actually quite interesting when you know we are so used to conceptual world, to our conceptual world. It seems to us to be completely fictitious to be able to operate in this world without thinking, to have direct knowledge, direct access to everything. So Buddha's mind is said to be omniscient. It realizes everything simultaneously. It also said to be spontaneous and effortless. And this effortless bit has to do with being non-conceptual, being perceptual, direct. So what prevents a mind from being like that are the imprints of ignorance. Imprints of ignorance create mistaken appearances of things existing as if things exist in and of themselves, but also delimit the knowledge that we have. So the antidote to that, again, is the wisdom of emptiness, meditating on emptiness, meditating or seeing, realizing emptiness perceptually. Now, I think that probably if you are introduced to that for the first time today, it's complicated, it's very heady, it's very intellectual. If you think, I don't get it, it's too complicated, it makes my mind hurt, it's okay. It's making everyone's mind hurt. Now, first of all, when you study a material like that, you have to first of all get used to a new language. It's just like I have a friend that studied medicine and practicing doctor, and he said that in the first few years it's just like learning a new language. You have to first of all be introduced to the terms, and you have to say them a few times. You have to think about it in a few times until they become real to you, have a certain content. So if you're feeling discombobulated, completely natural. So, and also, if you don't get it right now, it's completely okay. I mean, it took me quite a long time to start to feel completely natural, comfortable with those terms. But anyway, getting back to the point, we say that a Buddha has the perfect ability to be of benefit to others. We want to become Buddhas so that we'd be able to be of perfect benefit to others. So, in a very ultimate way, the way to be of perfect benefit to others is to lead others to the state of enlightenment, to lead others to the state of liberation, to use the fullest potential. So, what is the thing that limits our ability to be of perfect benefit to others? It is a lack of knowledge. Particularly when I have, if I'm discussing Dharma with others, either if I'm giving a talk or when we have like an informal discussion, I don't know the disposition of others. There are people that are more closer to me. So I know a little bit about the history, where they are at in this stage of life. I know what they've studied before, but also many people that have no knowledge of. We meet either for the first time or we might be meeting for quite a few times, but I know nothing about them. Not their historical families, circumstance, the habits, what they like, what they dislike, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses. So whatever I say might be beneficial to them, but also it might be detrimental to them if I'm in the wrong way, if I say the wrong words, if something triggers them. Not knowing the disposition is what holds me back to being of perfect benefit to them. But also, I think that sometimes when you encounter someone that experiences a challenge, a difficulty, and you're not sure what to say, you're not sure what's the right thing to say, that either temporarily they might feel better, they might find hope, but also something that will give them maybe more a long-term help or support. So we're saying that we want to become Buddhas to be of perfect benefit to others. The best tools that we would be able to use for the benefit of others would be knowing their dispositions, having no limitations, knowing exactly what to say, what to teach, what to do, what not to say. This is the best tools, the foremost tool that Buddhas use for the benefit of others. And that can only afford it if we eliminate cognitive obscurations or obscurations to knowledge. And there, if you think about it, how would it be to be completely unlimited? It's going to be amazing to be unlimited. A mind that not only is not under the sway of ignorance and other afflictive states of mind, but a mind that abounds in knowledge, being a mind that is completely unlimited. So to be able to do that, we need to develop the wisdom of emptiness. And so if I look again at the benefits of comprehending emptiness, generating the wisdom of emptiness, it is, first of all, coming to know reality better. And reducing misconceptions about the nature of existence through that, reducing the power of our afflictive states of mind. And long term, in the future, attaining liberation through eliminating afflictive obscurations. And after that, attaining enlightenment through developing the actual antidote to cognitive obscurations. Any questions? Any disagreements? Any objections? Cynthia?
Hi, Venerable. Thank you for your teachings. I just need some clarification. You mentioned that seed, like you were distinguishing between afflictive and cognitive,
Mm,
afflictive, sorry, the two
yeah,
kinds. Sorry. So in
yeah,
the
yeah.
first category, you mentioned it's the seed, whereas
Mm,
in the second category, you mentioned the imprint. Because I thought
yeah.
initially those are kind of the same, but maybe you could explain a little bit further the difference. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Cynthia. So I think that in general, we can speak about it in two ways. When we speak about Dharma in general, we say that um, we create imprints in our mind. We place imprints on our minds. We become angry, we leave an imprint. We become attached, we leave an imprint. So in a general sense, when we are speaking about imprints, we don't make a distinction between imprints and seeds. But if we want to be more specific, particularly here when we're looking at a path that proceeds to this state of enlightenment, this is when we start to make distinctions. So the distinctions are between seeds and imprints. Seeds are potentials that give rise to futures of consciousness, to latter moments of consciousness. The seed of ignorance produces the next moment of ignorance. The seed of anger produces the next moment of anger in active consciousness. As well, the seed of love. All of us have seeds of love and compassion. So, the seeds of love and compassion that we have produced the next moment of love and compassion, and so on and so forth. So, these are seeds and, and produce the appearances that dawn to our minds. So, appearances of, for example, we can speak about appearances of attractive, unattractive. Yeah, we can speak about them, but mostly we can speak of the imprint of ignorance, which is producing an appearance of things existing in and of themselves, in and of objectively, which means in the object itself. So go back to the question, Cynthia. What is the difference between them? When we speak about it in a general way, we don't necessarily make a distinction. But when we want to make distinctions between afflictive obscurations and cognitive obscurations, seeds, those latter moment of consciousnesses, imprints produce appearances. Is it clear, Cynthia?
Yes, thank you.
No
Thank you so
worries.
much.
All right. Let's look at where we are. Okay. So in the introduction to the importance of emptiness, today we spoke about how samsara works in general. We mentioned the 12 links of dependent arising. We mentioned the benefits of generating wisdom. And I wanted also to relate it to script. And so relating it to scripture can be done in different ways, but I wanted to mention Tsongkhapa's three principal aspects of the path. And by the way, before we do that, I'm just going to branch out. Today is called the Day of Miracles, according to the Buddhist calendar, the Tibetan calendar. We celebrated the Tibetan New Year 15 days ago, and between the first day of the first month of the Tibetan calendar to the 15th, we have 50 days of miracle. And it is said that during those miracles, the Buddha, performed different miracles or demonstrated superpowers, superhuman powers in order to vanquish either heretics or people that were challenging his the views of what he found. And so today, particularly the 15th of the first month, it is called the Day of Miracles. And we can say that maybe the greatest miracle that the Buddha demonstrated is the miracle of wisdom, the wisdom of emptiness. And so Tsongkhapa referred to the wisdom of emptiness as the gateway of the fortunate one desiring liberation in the three principal aspects of the path. He also called it this path for those who entrust themselves to the path pleasing the Buddhas, the victors. And so anyone that wants to attain the state of liberation from samsara, needs to generate the wisdom of emptiness, without which they will not enter that will lead to liberation. I mean, I speak about it in a very loose sense. To enter the path that leads to liberation, you need to develop renunciation or the definite wish to attain the state of liberation. But even if you've developed renunciation, without developing wisdom, you will still be bound into the wheel of existence. What breaks down the chains that hold us to existence is the wisdom of emptiness. So it is for those who desire the state of liberation, even more than liberation, the state of a Buddha. But also, once we found the wisdom of emptiness, we will truly make the minds of not only the Buddha, but also all of our teachers will make their mind absolutely pleased. So when we speak about, for example, the way to rely upon a spiritual teacher, there are different ways to go about it. You said that you can make offerings, you can offer service to your teacher, but the best way to please the mind of your teacher would be to put into practice whatever they've told you. But even more so when you think of embarking on the path that leads to the development of wisdom of emptiness, which will break down the cycle of existence, that would make the mind be most pleased, because this is how they will benefit you in the best possible way, make you attain the state of enlightenment through the wisdom of emptiness. And so it seems that our time is up for today. I think that we ended up in a positive note with the gateway of the fortunate ones desiring liberation, those who entrust themselves to the path pleasing the victor. And so let's finish up this session for today. Saying a couple of dedication prayers. Just a second. I did not open the dedication prayers in front of us. There it is. All right. We shall meet again next week, hopefully. No, if we, I hope that I'll still be alive. I hope that you guys are going to be still alive. By the way, what we what we are going to do now is go out and visit Kumbum Monastery. Kumbum is the monastery of the original monastery of Lamatsung Kappa. So we're at Chining, and it's Kumbum Monastery is in Chining. So today is a day of practices in the couple of weeks, and we gathered all the offerings, all the Thomas together, and we're going to go up to the hills around Kumbum Monastery and distribute all the leftovers from those practices for, for insects, birds, wild animals around them, and then we're going to visit the monastery. I have an afternoon translation session with a center from Australia, and I'm planning to take my computer with me and find a quiet spot so that I can show an hour. Hopefully, I'm not going to be arrested. I don't know how it's going to work out. Keep your fingers crossed. If I'm not going to be here next week, maybe I was arrested. Hopefully, it's not going to happen. But anyway, it's going to be all right. So let's end up with prayers. We have been doing it for the past 1.5 hours. So may by the merit we have created together, we will have generated bodhicitta and kept up our practice all the way to enlightenment. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that is not arisen arise and grow. And may that which is arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. And due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings, without exception, into that state. And a prayer for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, but also we can include that we can include all of our teachers, everyone that you feel particularly connected with in your heart. But you can also include everyone that is associated with Thupten Nobuling, that is helping us to enjoy the Dhamma, Venerable Dundrup, and everyone else within the mandala of Thupten Nobuling, of course, Geshe Sherab. May they live a long life. May they have a healthy life. May all their activities flourish successfully. So in the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good, all powerful Chinrezig Tenzin Gyatso. Please remain until samsara ends. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you very much, Shella, for coordinating this session. And yeah, may we meet again and do it again together. Thank you very much.